Okay, I'll hand you over to Ranga, and I think we also have a presentation, do we? Yeah, okay, thank you very much.
Okay, good. Good evening. Are you able to hear me? Good, great. Thank you for staying a little longer. I don't want to take much of your time, but this is one of the most important thing which we need to understand in the supply chain management world. Is it audible, or do I need to speak a little louder? Okay, great. So my name is Ranga. I am from Deloitte Consulting, primarily focused in the supply chain management and taking care of supply chain implementation projects, whether from technology side or from the process improvement. If we go back to our earlier discussion, one of the topic, the last question that came up is that is the technology is important or the people are important, right? So if people are not properly managed, the technology of no use. Is it correct or not? Does it make sense? So the discipline is the most important thing. If the discipline is not there in the process, then nothing will work out. I have a mobile, what has been mentioned earlier. So if I don't use it properly, it is of no use. My value addition will be zero at the end of the day. So with that in mind, I would like to quickly take you through some of the SCAR. How many people know what is meant by SCAR? Okay, very few. I think it's great, good to know. So SCAR is a supply chain operations reference model. SCAR is initially started by Supply Chain Council, which is no more existing. When I say no more existing, it doesn't mean that it got merged with EPICS. I think everyone knows what is EPICS, right? APICS, EPICS. So it got merged with 2014. And now it is called EPICS Supply Chain Council. So many of them are young professionals are there. You may be interested, what is this SCAR-P? I am also a SCAR-P guy. If you look into my designation, I am called as a SCAR-P professional, apart from the EPICS CSCP. So I can give you some updates. Before that, if you look into that, since morning, you guys are listening a lot about what are the supply chain management challenges in today's world. I don't want to repeat all the things in the interest of time, but I would like to stress some of the points which you didn't see that one. If you talk about integrated business planning in today's world, any industry, a supply planning person works independently, a demand planning person works separately, and a marketing planning person works separately, and the production planning person works separately, and the financial planner sits in a different way. Agree? So, but all these things are how we bring them together. That is the biggest challenge in today's world. Is it a technology? No, it's not a technology. It's a process driven thing, how we are able to manage that. That is the biggest challenge today we have. Second important thing is that lack of streamlined process. Since morning, some of you guys are talking about technology, ERP implementations, right? I am also the guy who is a part of ERP implementations. We talk about processes, but what technology do we need to use? What tool do I need to use? Before that, whether my process are streamlined or not. Agree? Whether my procurement process is streamlined or not, whether my logistics process is streamlined or not, whether my end-to-end from supplier to the customer, whether the process is being streamlined or not. So those are the things that are existing. And another important thing is that globalization challenges. In today's world, 10 years back or 15 years back, if you see the world, it was different. I sit in India, I work independently without connecting to the outside world. Or I sit in China and I work and dispatch it to the material to the US, and that will be a distribution center. But in today's complex scenario of supply chain, even the manufacturing locations got shifted to the US. So in a global environment where the mergers and acquisitions are happening so frequently, so how do we take care? And I will give some of the examples of where I was in the last 2 months. I was in Taiwan. I'm doing an implementation project because I couldn't put it on the paper. It is a sports bicycle company. Forget about the hi-fi technology companies we are talking. Even a normal bicycle company, I did a supply chain improvement process. So it is a sports bicycle company, not a normal regular day-to-day cycles or something. But what are the challenges that they are seeing that one? If you look into that one, we are talking since many times we talk about technology, but more than technology, if I take one of the thing is that I don't know what is the supplier capacity. Supplier tell to this manufacturing company, I have 10,000 units I can produce, whereas if I go to another one, he will say I have 15,000 I can deliver it today. So that is the biggest challenge for this bicycle company, sports bicycle company. They don't have the vendor managed capacity. How much is that one? The second one is that customer payment delays. Customer payment delays are happening not because of any technology or anything. It's because of delay in the delivering the product to the customers. So customer says, I asked you on 15th of March, sorry, let us take today's example. Yeah, I'm supposed to deliver last Monday, but you delivered on Thursday. Because of that, I don't want to pay immediately, I don't have the money. So whatever the payment terms, whatever the agreement that has been made, people will be not ready to make the payments. That is one thing I have seen. And the shop floor particularly, there are a lot of components are issued to the shop floor. When I have seen the shop floor, whether those components are required to manufacture the sports bicycle or not, irrespective of that, so much of inventory was lying there. When we have seen that inventory, almost across all the manufacturing locations, about 500,000 US dollars was existing. So just lying there, no one is touching, but still it is adding value to the product, final product. So these are the issues which they have today. One of the thing is that, another point is that why I am talking about a SCAR. Numeric metrics are maintained by different departments. When a CIO, Chief Information Officer, goes to a particular production line, their metrics is different from what he gets the metrics from the marketing officer, or the metrics that he gets from the purchasing department. So the metrics that has been maintained is totally mismatched. So in that scenario, is it a technology is driving or the process is driving these things? It's a process. So with this one, if we talk about, we implemented SCAR. SCAR is nothing to do with any tools or any technology or anything, just it is a more a process design. So how many, SCAR is primarily talks about three processes. If you take this one, in our earlier days, we used to talk about business process re-engineering, right? How many guys know BPR, right? We start with what is as is and what is it is going to be environment. And the next one is that benchmarking. Always we compare our company with another company. Where do we stand? Are we at par? Are we below? Are we ahead of the benchmark company? And the third one is that what are the best practices? All these things combined together, which is called a process reference model. I will skip this one. So SCAR is primarily talking about the 4 P's. 4 P's capitals, if you talk about that on people, the last one, which we talked in the earlier discussion also, unless people change, it will be very difficult to make a process change. And the third one is practices. What are the best practices that we need to implement? And the processes, we need to streamline the processes. And the fourth one is, the first one is performance metrics. So if you look into quickly these things, SCAR model, any industry like, if I am from a manufacturing company, all the 5 areas are, what are those things? Like Panchendriyas, you say that, it is always in any industry, it is a planning, procuring, sourcing, third one is making, and fourth one is delivering, and fifth one is, which is nothing but a returns from the customer, right? So these are the 4 major process areas. When we go to any project, first thing is that, forget about the technology, we don't get into the technology, we analyze their processes first. Who is the customer from the left hand side? Who is my supplier? And supplier, and customer's customer. So we go to the extreme end and analyze who are the suppliers, who are the suppliers, customer. So these are the 3 things which we will talk. And primarily we analyze if the company is following all the 5 processes: plan, make, source, deliver, and returns. Returns to the vendor, returns to the customer, right? Whatever the returns that comes from the customer, we take that and analyze that. So with these things we develop SCOR process, which is developed by the business, talks about 3 levels. First is level 1, which is a very high level, and after that the second one will get into level 2, which is divided into whether my strategy is a make to stock scenario or whether it is a make to order scenario or engineer to order scenario. I don't want to get into the theoretical subjects of the more into the projects. You can get into the Google it, or you can get into Supply Chain Council website and you can get those things. What is the strategy the company is giving? The company which I am talking here, their company is actually make to order scenario. When we entered into the project, actually we identified what is that scenario, your strategy is that. The client communicated to us, it is a make to order strategy. Like I receive the customer order, then we start building the item and then deliver it. Then we asked a couple of questions. What is the lead time based on our parameters and all those things? What is the lead time that you are taking to deliver the customer? There only it resulted the challenges they are facing in not able to meet the customer requested delivery date. So that is the biggest challenge where we have seen that. So the fundamental thing of the strategy, the business strategy, or at a high level, that itself is incorrect. That's what we have identified. The business strategy really, does it work as a make to order scenario or a make to stock scenario, right? If the fundamental question itself is not corrected, the whole process will not work. So this is a great example of the second level is whether I'm doing a make to stock product or a make to order or an engineer to order. The level 3, if you talk about, I'll skip this one. Level 3 is up to level this one SCOR will provide, and after that if you get into the level 4, it will be individually, it will talk about each and every level of the further details, whether it is the industry, specific pharma industry, food and beverage industry, and all those things. In this example, what we have seen is that we gone into the level 3 level and analyzed, we eliminated the processes, some of the processes which are redundant, and it reduced their inventory by 30% at a different location. So that is one thing I would like to tell. These are the things. The story of this one is that primarily SCOR will talk about the very high level, level 1, we do that, which is a plan, make, source, deliver. If it is a distribution industry, it doesn't make to work on the make, right? Because distribution industry doesn't talk about a make. So identify what level 1 process you want to improve and get into the level 2 and get into the level 3, and after that analyze those things. SCOR matrix. SCOR has defined another one called SCOR matrix, which generally in today's world we call it as the key performance indicators, right? Everyone is familiar. So every organization will have its own key performance indicators. Agree? Agree? So I'll give you one example. What is the order fulfillment ratio? When I ask, I'm not saying every person will give a different meaning for an order fulfillment ratio. So if I receive an order, the moment I receive a customer order, this group may say that the moment I confirm the order, that is my order fulfillment metrics. This group say that the moment I deliver the product to the customer, that is the time it is called order fulfillment. Another group may say that the moment I receive the invoice from the customer, that is called order fulfillment ratio. So there is a different way of definitions every company talks in a metrics. But SCOR has identified what will be the definitions of the different KPIs that we need to use, how it has to be designed. So if we go back to the earlier one, any attributes, like if you talk about a performance, we identified what are the attributes related to the customer, which is talking about these 3, reliability, responsiveness, agility, and the other 2 supply chain costs, which are internal to the organization. So primarily these are the level 1 SCOR will provide, so that the important thing which I am trying to say is that the consistency will be there. Otherwise, everyone will define his own processes. The one point which I mentioned in this example is that the metrics that has been designed by each organization, the calculation didn't give a right information to the CIO. That was the reason the CIO invited us, can you do supply chain performance improvement process? Then we did that exercise. Another question is that the same company, Deloitte itself, they asked about the technology. Right now they are in a SAP. I think some of you are morning onwards, you are talking about SAP implementation. So one of the questions the client has asked us, because the latest technologies are whatever we talked about since morning, like RPAs, IoTs, and whatever that Fury apps, which we can use it and all those things. The one answer simply that came up from the CIO is that, first thing is that I need to improve my people and processes. Then only I can talk about SAP S/4HANA implementation and all those things. That is the beautiful answer he gave. Let me make my processes very streamlined and make it very clear, and after that we can talk about S/4HANA SAP implementation. That is the answer he gave. So, and also the metrics that need to be defined is well defined. So I am not getting into the details of each one, but SCOR is primarily a group of organizations, Fortune 500 companies, who have designed the processes, who have defined the matrices and all those things, come up with the processes. So before you go for any implementations, start with SCOR process and then only switch over to technology. Generally what they do is that they keep the horse behind the cart. That is the biggest challenge. So people talk about what technology do I need to use. No, that is not the right approach. Whether your processes are properly aligned or not, once the processes are properly managed, then only think about the technology which you are going to use. I think with that one, I'm not taking into much details because SCOR is like Ravindra is there, sorry, is there. So SCOR trainings are happen regularly. And the second one is that the implementations are very small in nature. It doesn't need like a SAP implementations like a 1 year or 2 years or something like that. Within 18 weeks, you identify the process, what process is there, go detail into that process, what is the percentage of return you are getting it. So it is like a hybrid agile methodology. If you talk about that, divide the whole process into a small one, complete it in 16 weeks or 18 weeks or 10 weeks and show the results and move to the next supply chain improvement. So very effective methodology, and I am not the salesperson for the SCOR, but that is what I would like to communicate. Okay, good, thank you very much. In the interest of time, I will go.
So do we have any questions?
What?
Yeah, we have a question just here. Look, can we? So big lack of technology in that presentation and a lot of thinking required.
Hi, good evening. My question is on make to order. Like you said, the client you had is make to order. Then he is having you said inventory was very high everywhere. He might be keeping the inventory to improve the service level because he has to make and this. So what solution, kind of a solution you propose? Whether if he want to continue to make to order or some make to stock or some hybrid solution?
Yeah, so solution what we provided is that one topic is that one is we identified the customers like 80-20 rule, right? What is the revenue that is coming from the 20% of the customers, right? So we identified who are the major customers, ABC customers, what are the A customers, identified what strategy should be adopted to these guys, what strategy should be adopted to these guys, and what strategy adopted to these guys. And the second one is that what you asked me the question, is it required to do the make to order once I receive the sales order? No, the answer is no, right? Because the lead time is taking a lot of time, right? So what we suggested, some of the points which we need to think about. So it's not a simple answer because I am a consultant. So the answer is pretty simple. Wherever the finished goods is there, depend on the type of the finished goods, keep it at some level, like a make to stock scenario. Whenever sales order comes up, we keep a very small lead time and make it within 2 days, deliver it to the customer. So that is depend on the type of the product. That's what we did. Yeah.
Okay. Any more questions? One more question down this side, please. Could you just hand over the mic? There you go.
It was very informative. I just had a question. You said that first you need to get your process in line and then you need to use the technology. So how do you come to know that your process is up to date as of now and then you move on to like advancing as a technology to expand the process more?
Right. Great. So whether your process is optimized or whether it is the best practice or not, that is where the SCAR model comes into picture, right? So let us take an example of your processes there. From your manufacturing, let us take a small example of a sports bicycle, right, which I am talking. The moment you produce, you get the material from the vendor, from the supplier, till you make the finished goods and deliver it, what is the lead time it is taking? It is about 18 days which is taking that. What is the benchmark for that for the same product in another organization? Are we behind the schedule? Are we at par with? Are we ahead of the schedule? Some of the companies are making a total replenishment lead time of 12 days, right? So 18 days minus 12 days, which is like I am taking a 6 more days more. So which is incorrect. Definitely I am behind. Makes sense, right? So definitely that is the area which we have identified where to improve the processes. So we identified that is a level 1, right? So we identified into level 2, which is like a make to order, the question that he has brought it, make to order scenario, and after that we further drill down into the level 3 processes, and each task we identified, is it a active process, efficient process, or is it like a redundant process? There is a lot of discussion that happens. Based on that, we identified the process and provided an effective map, flow diagram to the client, so that there is a, instead of 18 days, we cannot reach 12 days in the next 1 month, right? First thing is that we need to crawl, walk, run, right? That is generally the process, we do that. So we suggested it will take some time, but we have gave a timeline to this is the approach we need to follow. So coming back to your question, yes, the best practices are available in the SCAR, and the metrics are available in the SCAR, and based on the industry also, you can get more from the market also.
Okay, thank you very much. No more questions? Okay, thanks. And I'll just say thank you very much to Ranga before we start our